Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wildcat Game Day Preview. I'm Bianca Javate together with Evie Mason, and we're looking at the Cats' big game for Week 12. As they return to Wrigley Field on Saturday, they will face number 2 ranked Ohio State. This will be the first of 2 home games set at Wrigley Field this season, with the other scheduled on November 30 against Illinois. But before we talk about that game, let's recap the Cats' road win at Purdue. The game went into overtime, finishing with a score of 26-20 as quarterback Jack Lausch completed 23 of 35 passing attempts for 250 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Evie, talk us through that win. What did the Cats do differently that worked for them that week? Like, what kind of team was on the field?
Yeah, so the game went into overtime with the Wildcats stopping Purdue on their first possession. Purdue passed up on the go-ahead field goal and failed to convert on the 4th and 6 from the 21-yard line. The Wildcats then did what they're good at. They ran the ball and played defense. Running back Joseph Hyman came to the rescue, catching the 22-yard game-winning touchdown to hand Northwestern the win. Earlier in the game, he also had a 51-yard running touchdown. Northwestern is making the most of both running backs, Porter and Hyman, and as Hyman has taken on more responsibility, it'll be interesting to see if he can continue to take advantage of these tougher opponents on the docket. On top of that, Jack Lausch also had a somewhat decent game with the 23 of 35 completions and the 250 yards.
Now, taking all of this into consideration, the Cats will face a tough opponent on Saturday. Ohio State had a blowout win at home over Purdue last week, scoring 45-0. And the Buckeyes are on a 3-game winning streak. So far, they've lost only once, and that was in Week 7 against number 1 ranked Oregon. Now, statistically, the odds are leaning more toward Ohio State's favor, and the Cats are seen as the underdogs in this match. But Evie, could you talk to us a bit more about that Ohio State team? What should the Cats do if they want to cause an upset?
The Buckeyes are 28.5-point favorites. They're 8-1. They're 5-1 in the Big Ten. Their one loss being to now number 1 Oregon, as you mentioned. But yeah, their quarterback situation is not great, and Will Howard may not be that much of a threat. But that running back duo, Quinshon Judkins with 106 carries for 647 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6.1 yards per carry, and Trayvon Henderson with 78 carries and 588 yards. 5 touchdowns, and 7.5 yards per carry. Combined, that's 184 yards for 1,235 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 13.6 yards per carry. So it's pretty apparent how explosive that duo is. They also have receivers that can get the job done, with freshman Jeremiah Smith. He's scored a touchdown in 8 of the 9 games this season. And they also have Emeka Egbuka. So offensively, Ohio State is going to score a lot. It doesn't matter how good Northwestern's defense is, it's going to most likely be overworked if the Wildcats' offense stagnates, and it very well might. They don't really have a chance in 3 blowout games this season. Iowa, Wisconsin, and Washington, Lausch completed less than 50% of his passes, just to put that into perspective. So the Buckeyes have played Purdue this past weekend. They were 37.5-point favorites against Purdue, and they covered, winning 45-0. So I won't sugarcoat things. It's most likely going to be a blowout. But if the Wildcats want to have any sliver of chance to upset OSU, keeping Ohio State's offense on the sidelines and having long drives will be what's best, and trying to control the clock. That's super important, since Northwestern's offense is just not efficient enough to make really big comebacks if the team gets down by more than 1 touchdown.
Now, I would have to agree with Evie on this one. Looking at the Cats' wins so far this season, their defense needs to work overtime in limiting their opponent's scoring capabilities. This will be crucial especially when up against an offensive powerhouse like Ohio State, who has averaged 38.6 points per game, as opposed to Northwestern's 19.22 average. But as we've seen in the past, anything can happen in college football. This has been Bianca Javate and Evie Mason. Thank you for joining us tonight, and don't miss out on the action as Northwestern faces Ohio State this Saturday, 11 a.m. in Wrigley Field. We'll see you guys in the next episode of Wildcat Game Day Preview.